Bill Cunningham, the great American, of course, the the junior senator. I'm not sure. I think he's junior senator, maybe the senior. State of Ohio is John Husted. John Husted, welcome again to the Bill Cunningham Show. And first of all, Senator Husted, I want to get some reaction from you on the murder of Charlie Kirk. Also, I just had on about an hour ago a representative of Turning Point USA Miami chapter. I'm going to share some of those comments with you. But first of all, from your level, and I know he was a great assistant to J.D. Vance, and how did the assassination of Charlie Kirk affect Senator John Husted?
It's heartbreaking. And when you see a young person, particularly Charlie Kirk, who did so much between, at the age of 31 to go into college campuses, into the belly of the beast where they were trying to do cancel culture, and hear Charlie say, hey, debate me, prove me wrong. Let's have a conversation about these things, trying to give young people courage to speak up and then the intellectual tools and to make their voices heard, and the platform to make their voices heard, and then to have someone call a guy like that a fascist and then murder him is just despicable. Yep. And our hearts are broken. But I'll tell you, up here on Capitol Hill, there are a lot of young staff people, right, from all the offices. And you could see, Charlie Kirk was to them, what Rush Limbaugh was maybe to a previous generation, or Bill Cunningham was to a previous generation in Cincinnati, right? It was the person that sort of they were brought up on, and to see him struck down like that was just hard for a lot of the young people up here to take, and they're struggling with it. And I've seen that with so many cases. It's just so sad.
Senator, I played about 20 minutes ago the words of Charlie Kirk. He did a podcast with Senator Mike Lee of Utah, in which he talked about the violence on the left. The whataboutism is one hell of a failed argument. We all condemn all political violence no matter what, even though House Democrats yesterday did not condemn the political violence against Charlie Kirk. The same was not true about the murder of State Representative Hortman in Minnesota. That's a different story. But there appears to be a sewer, and it's beneath the Capitol, it's beneath Cincinnati, it's beneath Chicago, and there's an alternative universe that exists. That in that universe, Charlie Kirk was a fascist. In that universe, Donald Trump is Adolf Hitler. He's a Nazi. In that universe, Senator John Husted is someone who needs to be taken out in one sense or another. And I don't think the Democrats accept that whatsoever. For white males especially, who spend their time on the dark web, on the internet, disconnected to other people, not dating girls, no sense of God, no sense of family, no sense of patriotism. And they're lost in a world of gaming and porn, and they develop their own set of principles in which the murderer, whose name has never left my lips, believes he's doing some greater cause by killing Adolf Hitler. Can anything be done from a legislative level that indicates that kind of hate speech on the left must be stopped or curtailed? Something must occur. The firing of Jimmy Kimmel was occasioned mainly because he had bad ratings and bad revenues. But legislatively, do you sense on the left a bubbling sewer that every now and then the lids pop off?
Well, Bill, that's a lot to unpack right there. I don't know that there's a legislative solution to it. Look, there has to be a cultural outrage at what they're doing by saying that anyone is comparable to Hitler. Nobody's comparable to Hitler. He murdered 75 million people. You call people fascists and things like that. That's language that then when like these radicalized leftists, like the guy who shot Charlie Kirk, when they hear those things, they think, well, I've got to do something about it. I hear people, talking about this person like he's Hitler. He's not Hitler, for goodness sakes. There's no comparison, and this is crazy talk to even try to compare anything that's going on in America today to what happened in Nazi Germany in the 30s and 40s. But it does radicalize people when you do this, and then they try to take, they see themselves as a hero in this story, as somebody who's doing something bold and noble to save America. That's the kind of environment those words are creating. And then you see tragic events like Charlie Kirk happen, and Charlie Kirk is not even, had his funeral yet, and they are already shifting the conversation away from the assassination of Charlie Kirk to their own victimhood again, and it's troubling.
When other figures have been assassinated, I look at John Wilkes Booth, who murdered Abraham Lincoln. he thought he would be hailed as a hero. He thought he was going into the South, into Virginia, and he'd be welcome. When Lee Harvey Oswald murdered John F. Kennedy, he thought he would be welcome into Cuba if he wasn't caught after he killed police officer Tibbetts in the movie theater where the movie War is Hell was playing. He thought he was a hero. When James Earl Ray murdered Martin Luther King Jr., assassinated him, he thought, okay, I'm going to be welcomed by the white supremacist movement. And in this case, the assassin, the murderer, thought he was doing the Lord's work, that he'd have a getaway, he'd have a network of other left-wingers to support him. And I don't know how you fall in that level of mental illness, but individuals do. And when it happens, I agree with you, Senator Husted. I don't know what legislatively can be done to cure the human heart, to make someone believe that someone who believes so strongly in God, family, and America,
Bill,
it doesn't happen.
Have to condemn.
Yeah.
That's why we have to condemn anybody who will not denounce this. I mean, you have to denounce political violence or violence of any kind to set the standard for the world, to set the community standard under which people, there used to be rules of sort of a code of morality and ethics which people would operate in the political sphere, that we debated the issues and we would disagree with someone's ideas, but we didn't try to vilify the individual to the point that we would stir people's emotions to the point that they think that assassinating them is a good thing. And that's now a standard in many cases that's being set on the political left. And it's not tolerable. And look, my language, I always try never to name call. I always try to characterize my disagreement with the ideas that an individual has. I don't try to call someone a name. It's not how I do things. And that's what we need to do. Fight about the issue. This is what Charlie Kirk was trying to do.
Right.
He's trying to fight about the ideas, fight about the issues. You know where we settle it? We settle it at the ballot box. And then, like any good sportsman or a fan of democracy, you recognize that elections have consequences. You bear those consequences for 2 years until you get a chance to vote again. But that's how it's supposed to work, not through violence to get our means, not through canceling people to get our means.
Senator Husted, let me give you a headline out of this morning about 10:30 a.m. You might have been busy and missed it. Nearly 100 House Democrats refused to support resolution condemning political violence. And I read that headline. I thought, what? The House of Representatives passed a resolution on Friday condemning political violence and honoring Charlie Kirk, but nearly 100 Democrats refused to support it. And the raw number is impossible to ignore. Close to 100 Democrats balked at denouncing political violence. So I went back in time to June of this year. There was a House resolution to condemn political violence and, in a sense, to honor Representative Melissa Hortman. Back in June, the House unanimously passed a resolution without one objection honoring Minnesota House Democrat Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark, after they were tragically killed, I might add, by a fellow Democrat who was an appointee of Governor Tim Walz. He went nuts, dressed up like a cop, and killed Melissa Hortman. So 100% of the Republicans in the House a couple hours ago, in June, said, okay, we condemn political violence and we honor the life of Melissa Hortman. You had nearly 100 Democrats, 11 o'clock this morning, refused to support a resolution condemning political violence. Now, you just said, can we all agree you can't have political violence? Just had 100 Democrats say, I'm not signing up for that. What does that say? Now you got me all pissed off, Senator. I'm reading this story, and I'm thinking, what the hell's going on? And I thought, okay, they didn't want to honor Charlie Kirk. Hey, okay. But then I went back in time, and every Republican honored Melissa Hartman. Can you explain that to me?
I can't explain it to you. I can't explain it to you. I can just see, the limited time I've been here in Washington, I think people are just sometimes just scared of their own shadows. Like somehow somebody's going to say, if you voted for this and you were on the left, that meant you supported what Charlie Kirk stood for. No, that's not what it means. That's not what it means at all. And don't try to suggest that somehow it does. This is a statement. These kinds of votes are statements of principle. They're a statement that you honor a person's life who was assassinated, and you condemn any violence, which is a statement, a forward-looking statement, that this is not how we settle our problems. And the fact that they can't even vote for that and go out and look their constituents in the eye and explain why they voted for it is, Bill, I don't have words for it. I don't understand how this happens. I mean, when the shooting occurred in Minnesota, I was one of the, of course, like you condemn it and you offer your your heart hurts for people, and you condemn it and you offer your prayers, because that's what a civil society does in the case of tragedy and unspeakable actions by a deranged murderer or assassin. And that's just what we do. And if you fail to set that standard as a nation, as a leader, then you are condoning that kind of behavior.
Senator Husted, in about 10 days, one of these things is going to happen again, which is a governmental shutdown. The House of Representatives passed a CR continuing resolution. Now it goes to the Senate. Chuck Schumer called the Schumer shutdown yesterday, said from the floor of your body, the Senate, said a couple things. Number one, it must be tied to an extension of Obamacare. And secondly, it must be tied to an extension or payment to NPR, to National Public Radio. I thought we won that battle already. But Schumer and the Democrats will not vote in the Senate to continue governmental funding. And he uses as an excuse Medicare Obama subsidies, and also NPR. So how does this thing end in about 10 days?
Well, the Schumer shutdown is up to Chuck Schumer. We do not need to shut down the government. We have the votes to keep it open if he'll just allow a vote. But he doesn't, he wants to use his power to really just say, hey, you got to negotiate with me. He doesn't even want the vote to come to the floor, because he knows that he will have Democrats that will vote with us to keep the government open. Remember, this is the Chuck Schumer who literally said last year when Joe Biden was president that we need a clean CR. We can't shut the government down. It's irresponsible. And then now that Donald Trump's the president, he has Trump derangement syndrome, and he has to be opposed to anything that Donald Trump does. He wants to shut the government down to try to make Donald Trump look bad, because he's more interested in defeating Trump than he is in helping Americans. And I'll be here. I'm going to be ready to vote, ready to keep the government open. I mean, it's incompetence to do what he's trying to do. He'll play his games, and in the end, we'll get this fixed. But he needs to play his games first. He wants to make it about him, and he wants to make it look like he's tough, and he wants to make it look like he's trying to fight for something, when in the end, he's just playing games at the expense of the American people.
Well, if there's a shutdown, which if the Democrats, because of the rules of the Senate, even though the Senate's controlled by the Republicans, it takes 60 votes to do anything in the Senate. And if Schumer sticks to his guns, and he's going to try to make it look as if Senator John Husted and Bernie Moreno and J.D. Vance and Donald Trump did it, and the media is going to sing out of the same hymn book as the Democrats, it's going to be tough. But let's face it, I think the American people figured out we have to go a different route, play a different game. Senator John Husted, the odds of a shutdown for a short period of time, you think are pretty good?
I'm always going to be an optimist, but look, as I heard somebody say yesterday, never underestimate Chuck Schumer's desire to play political games. And that's a fair point. And look, Bill, it's just frustrating to deal with this guy because he's blocking a vote. That's really what he does in this process. If you had a vote, if you just got rid of the 60 votes because they just vote to say, really what it is let's vote so that we can have a vote. Because if it's about a clean CR that just keeps the government open so we can continue to work through these details, and many Democrats would vote for it too. And he's just blocking it. It's all about him.
Now maybe Schumer's approach is, quote, a threat to democracy, which Democrats love to employ that phrase. That's a threat to democracy.
Threat to the democracy is a failure to do your job as an elected official, and if he doesn't want to do it, he should step aside and let somebody else do it. But he's trying to block, just like one person trying to block the whole country from having the services that people paid for. It's crazy.
Well, that's a threat to democracy right there. Senator John Husted, you're a great American, and thanks for coming on the Bill Cunningham Show. Thank you, Senator.